It's been a long road, getting from there to here. It's been a long time, but my time is finally near. And I will see my dreams come alive at last. I will touch the sky, and they're not gonna hold me down no more. No, they're not gonna change my mind, 'cause I've got faith of the heart. I'm going where my heart will take me. I've got faith to believe I can do anything. I've got strength of the soul, and no one's gonna bend or break me. I can reach any star. I've got faith. I've got faith. Faith of the heart. Space. The final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Adequate. Our ongoing mission until we are cancelled and replaced by something far superior. To review every episode of Star Trek and every movie of Star Trek in existence. To seek out new guests and make them incredibly uncomfortable. To boldly go where very many other Star Trek-based YouTube shows have gone before. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies, gentlemen, Treks and Trekkers all over this fine planet. Welcome to another episode of Trekking Up North. I am your host, Captain Goodwill. And joining me, as ever, is the delectable Geesian from the planet Honk. Science Officer Synoiz. And this week we have an incredibly uncomfortable guest. He is a YouTuber, he is a Twitcher, but more importantly than that, he's from Middlesbrough. Give it up for James Moorhead. Hello, James.
Hello. How do I follow up that? And it's downhill from here, isn't it?
I think you deny you're from
cancelled
Middlesbrough.
now.
That's where you start.
Well, yeah. I mean, technically, I'm from just outside of Middlesbrough, so
Oh, we're all
Out
just
of the
outside.
blast radius.
Yeah, we're all just outside of Middlesbrough. We don't drink the water. However, judging from the people in Red Car, or Dead Car, as I like to call it, I think the water's reaching here. How are you this week, James?
I'm doing well. I'm very sweaty in this uniform. God knows how they managed to run around all that much on these hot planets and stuff. But yeah, good. Been a busy week. Been a fun week.
Oh, she's moist. She's moist already, and we've barely started. Good.
For those playing the home game, James has a channel called JL. Is it JL?
It's JL Saw You.
JL Saw You. Sorry, my dyslexic ass just went. Oh! He's a YouTuber and a Twitch streamer. He has just recently released a video where he reviews the PS2 classic, The Getaway, which for me, hands down, was one of the best games of the PlayStation 2, purely because of the amount of licenses in it. Because I've never known a game in my life where you could shoot someone in the face outside of a Next.
It was.
I mean, we've always dreamed of that.
We've always dreamed of it, and this allowed us to fulfill it. You paid how much for those jeans? And
I just love the idea of garrotting outside of Woolworths. That's like the.
But enough about Synoiz's
weekend.
weekend.
Running someone down outside of Dixon's.
Dixon's.
What about garrotting at Dixon's?
Speaking of Dixon's, hello to Lee in the chat.
Garrotting at B&Q.
Wait.
Oh, pegging at B&M. How are you this week, Synoiz?
I am good. I'm in a very silly mood, as
Are
you
you?
can probably tell. Yeah.
Sorry, I just found a peg on my actual desk.
If you're pegging with that Goodwill, you're not even trying. I mean, like some of us can't sit on traffic cones easily.
Much like starting a business, you start off small. So, how are you this week, Synoiz?
I'm good. It's getting to my busy period, which is a bit scary, but it's been quite fun. Like I've had a lot of actual time for other things, which was quite fun this week. So it's like the eye before the storm, or the the calm before the storm, I think, at the minute, which is quite good.
Oh, that perfect. It's I sum up that way that happens at work like getting up in the morning. It's peaceful. There is not a care in the world, and then your consciousness comes in and goes, "You've got debt." And that's
Surprise! It's that.
surprise council tax.
One thing that I have really enjoyed this week is obviously yesterday we tuned in for Gigs Up North, which is the new show that we've got, which
From General Kirky.
General Kirky, nearly said her real name. General Kirky is heading up there. It's Balls of Rabbit, fuck's sake. But yeah, and I just love that. Like I've been chatting to Adam a lot, like our wonderful 50-foot tall goth Viking.
No, why is she shrank? He's
He's got smaller.
189.62 foot.
It's because he's finished.
Is it cold?
Yeah, it's cold.
Right, okay,
He's
that's
slightly shriveled.
Shriveled.
But I just love how good he is with music because like I was chatting to him last week and he's like, okay, Kirky said that she wants like a synthwave kind of track and I've never really tried synthwave before, so I've listened to some of it and I'm gonna have a go. And then just sends me this play around where he's like, oh, here's a synthwave track, and it's amazing. It literally sounds like ludicrously good. And he's like, oh, I'm just gonna improvise like a 1-minute guitar solo over it. And he just sitting there and he's like, is it any good? And you're like, could you possibly be less talented? Maybe
Just dial it back a little.
Yeah.
for the sake of the rest of the universe.
I sum up James. I sum up Adam as very much like Bill Bailey, where they've got this rare condition where it's called perfect pitch.
Vikingism.
Yeah, but it's
I've
called
heard of
perfect
that, yeah.
pitch, where they can literally pick up any musical instrument and master it. I think Adam's got a very, very deep calling, because I remember when he was like, oh, I loved Mass Effect, and we're going to review Mass Effect on Gaming Up North's Ramblecast. Oh, I might do a theme tune. And then, like, half a day later, he was like, I've done it. And it's like the greatest cover I have ever... And then he did Assassin's Creed, and I'm like, save some fucking talent for the rest of the crew, please, if that's okay.
Some of us have to struggle. You know, some of us
Yeah.
can't do bar chords.
I just love it. I just
Some
love,
of us
like,
try
how
and
good
produce
he
a
is
fucking
with
Star
stuff.
Trek show and we can't do that competently, and he's just like, I've mastered synthwave. Oh, God.
I just love it where it's literally him like, oh, it feels like a sort of weird sci-fi countdown of sort of like, you know, Adam discovers synthwave. 2 seconds later, Adam masters synthwave. 3, total assimilation, like total destruction of humanity.
He's very much like Iron Man in the first Avengers movie, where it's just like, how did you learn nuclear physics? Oh, I did it last night. That's just Adam. He's the Iron Man of the group.
I just love it though. Like, and obviously you got to hear some of his lovely music and the wonderful Voyager theme cover that we have at the beginning of every episode.
I will say, Treks and Trekkers out there, I am going to get him to do another Star Trek theme. Can you guess what it's going to be?
Is it gonna be?
It's a tricky one.
Is there
some of the incidental
hints given
music
today, or yeah?
Yes,
Is
the
it some of the
animated
incidental
series theme.
music from First Contact?
It's going to be the fight music from TOS.
Is
Is
going to
it
be
the
a
one from
cover?
what is it? Hop Along Home.
Yes.
Is it the rhyme from that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a cover of Ooby Dooby from First Contact?
Oh, Roy Orbison. Do the
that plays
Ooby
on
Dooby.
the jukebox.
Yeah. Hey, baby, jump over here when you do the Ooby Dooby.
I was just trying to think of anything vaguely obscure there.
Yeah, when it's quite obvious what it's going to be, but go on for the sake of the deaf people listening.
Oh, yes, because we do an audio podcast as well, don't we? You don't get to see the bookcase of mild destitution. It's going to be Star Trek Enterprise. It's going to be Faith of the Heart. We are going to do Rod Stewart and Russell Watson proud. So when I get some pennies, lovely Adam is going to get bought off, and I'm going to say, you know that theme tune that 99% of Trekkies hate? Guess what? But as we have alluded to all the way through this, and as you can see on our stunning reel, which has synced up every alien race in the same position for some strange demonic reason, because I never lined them up that way, we are here to review, finally, after 51 weeks of trekking up north, a Star Trek Enterprise episode. Now, before we get to what I think of Star Trek Enterprise, I want to approach you two. So, as you are a very special guest, James, how did you get into Star Trek Enterprise? What do you think of Star Trek Enterprise?
Right. So Enterprise. So I remember when Enterprise came out. I remember it was sort of in the wake of Nemesis and that. A little bit, I guess. Star Trek was going into a bit of a down period. So, admittedly, I've only seen the first 2 seasons of Enterprise. I actually dropped it. I kind of dropped it because I didn't have Sky in my room at the time when it was airing, and for one reason or another, just college, university, that sort of thing, I just never kept up with Enterprise. So I did like it, and I remember at the time it came out, I got a bit of a negative reception, but I actually liked what I saw of it. I didn't have a problem with it. And I know, you mentioned it before, the theme song, so I was going to tackle that one straight away. I like the theme.
Yes!
I really like the theme. I was brought up, we were chatting about this beforehand, but I was brought up with, theatrical rock, with the likes of Meatloaf and later Genesis and Phil Collins, so, cheesy, power ballady type rock. So when it came, I was like, oh, I actually quite like this. It's different. I can understand why people don't. Maybe you're expecting that orchestral thing again, but I liked it because it was different. And I also think, as cheesy as it is, it really fit what was happening during the intro, sequence and such. But yeah, Enterprise, I like what I have seen of it. I do need to actually watch the rest of it. I think it was very interesting for me, and I suppose we will talk about it as we go on, to revisit an episode from it and spend time with those characters and that little slice of Starfleet, of humanity again.
Loved that. That is an absolutely amazing explanation. Synoiz?
It's all right, yeah.
I was going to do that. Actually, but I thought
I think whoever went second would be obliged to do that kind of
famously, we know on Trekking Up North that Science Officer Synoiz dropped off Enterprise at season 4 when, for a lot of people, it got incredibly good because Manny Koto, the late great Manny Koto, was brought in.
Who's Manny Koto?
He was the showrunner for season 4 of Enterprise. He sadly passed away last year.
Yeah.
But he was brought in to rejuvenate Star Trek Enterprise because we'd had a season 3 where it was a season-long arc. So it was very new for a Star Trek to do this.
A lot of shows back then, actually.
Yeah,
I can't remember anything else that really did that.
And DS9 alluded to an arc, but Enterprise was sort of like, we're going to do this. And at the end, they brought in Manny Koto to rejuvenate it and take Star Trek Enterprise back to the core of Star Trek and what it was about. How did you get into Enterprise to begin with?
Me or
Synoiz?
Well, I haven't answered the actual question yet.
Answer it, you bitch.
Yes.
No, the thing is, for me, Discovery is a bit difficult because it's like, it's very hit and miss, the whole thing. Sorry, no, Enterprise. No, let's not go to Discovery. That is more than hit and miss. That is. But Enterprise is a difficult one for me because there's loads of stuff I love about it, but then I'm at the polar opposite of most fans of it, where I'm much better. Season 1 is the pinnacle of Enterprise, and season 2 is good, and then 3 and 4 are just, I can't do it. I think season 4, where they just go, hey, you know what's really fun? Vulcans. Let's just have loads of emotionless Vulcans in every episode. And you're sitting there being like, this dynamic doesn't work. It only, the bits where it's on the planet and and it's literally just a desert and it's just Archer's the only person with a personality there, and it gets very difficult for me.
Is that where you dropped off?
Yeah, I think it was a lack of interest because season 3 was difficult because season 3, where they go into this big arc where they've got this race that we've never heard of before, who we'll never hear from again. There's Indy. And all of it is just a bit unbelievable. All of it is a bit like, it feels like where they just go, hey, we need more explosions. We're talking too much. We've got too much diplomacy. We just need explosions, and that'll make people watch. And I think it's more the idea of they should have just gone, maybe we shouldn't be doing a Star Trek show here, rather than making a different kind of show. Because the first season is amazing because it's that whole thing of going, how they all started, and where in this episode especially that we're going to review today, it's what the Vulcans are like, and realizing that we're used to the Vulcans being through the lens of Spock, or all like, one at a time, basically, where we've got like, Tuvok, who is amazing because he's a contrast to everyone. But when we actually see them with the upper hand, them being in charge of everything, and what a nightmare that is to deal with in season 1, where they are literally restricting the humans from doing anything, and in this episode where they're pretty much a problem for the galaxy because of their sort of rigid views on stuff, it kind of, it helps flesh them out, but at the same time it made me like Vulcans less. And then when it doubled down on their involvement in season 4, I was a bit like, yeah, don't like Vulcans anymore, and I'm a bit annoyed about it.
It's incredibly interesting for me to hear that you dipped out during the Vulcan mini arc in season 4, because that literally transformed the Vulcans from what they were in Enterprise to how we saw them in the rest of Star Trek. It sort of addressed it head on. And I think if you rewatched it now, if you just plowed through season 4 and watched it, there was a lot of things in season 4 where Manny, who was a Star Trek fan, went in and went, okay, so this is a prequel. We can address this. We can address that. We can do this. We can focus on that. And he did a lot to sort of make it an actual prequel. So it's sort of like, oh, how this is in the original series, this is why. How, the Vulcans behave, this is why. And it's absolutely brilliant that he was a genius, and it was so sad that it was cut short, because the whole issue, the whole premise of the 7-season plan that they had was it would end, like we would have the Romulan War. So we would have this much talked about, fabled Romulan Earth War that sort of formed the Federation. And that it would end with the formation of the Federation. And we never got that fully fleshed out. And I think that's one of the greatest miscarriages in Star Trek, where for the longest time this war was, I mean, even down to the original series, this war was always discussed. And it was like it was the Wolf 359. It was like this is what defined the Alpha Quadrant, the Beta Quadrant. This is what defined the neutral zone. This is why there's tensions, and it was just like cancelled.
That's and this is the problem, where it's like, I wonder if it had have had the full arc, would it have been better? Like, would I look back on season 3 and 4 more going like, but it's the fact that season 3 didn't feel like it was part of an arc. It felt like it was a very big reaction. It felt like they were going, hey, we need to make things more exciting. And it's kind of totally self-sustaining. Like, it's totally sort of in itself, and then in season 4 they're like, oh well, that happened, rather than being part of this, like, like we have in DS9 where you have the Dominion War, is like when they introduce it, it kind of goes all the way, but there's not really. But I don't know. I'm being a bit harsh.
No, it's absolutely fair, because they sort of justify it where they go, like when Daniels comes in season 3 and he's just like, none of this was supposed to happen at all. Like, there is no record of this. Like, there is no attack on Earth. There is nothing. We don't know. And it's sort of like, I can give it credit for that, because people, like, when season 3 was actually airing, they were like, oh, we've never heard of the Xindi. We've never heard of this. And they were like, we've got you, because this shit was not supposed to happen. And it's like, it's a great way to get around it, but it's also to say, hey, the timeline is not completely infallible, and like things will change, and this is what. So like we've seen with Strange New Worlds with Khan in season 2 of Strange New Worlds, where they're just like, I've been on this planet for 30 years and I couldn't get to her. Now I've got Khan. And it's just like, oh, Khan's a kid in 1991, so he didn't piss off in 1996 then. Yeah. Okay, it's a good way to get around, like, sort of retcon it and
Yeah.
modernize it a bit. But
I mean, there's certain things in Star Trek that are very sort of difficult when it comes to its own timeline, especially
yeah,
because of all the stuff that in the original series, I guess they established happened in the 90s and early 2000s, the whole eugenics wars and all that,
yeah,
and they've had to kind of flirt with that a little bit, but then go back on it and retcon it, and the whole. I think that was another reason why I kind of dropped off Enterprise as well. I just didn't. I think I did get to season 3 of the whole Xindi arc, and I didn't find it overly interesting at the time
no.
because I think I did miss an episode or two, and obviously it being a serial thing, you miss an episode, you couldn't catch up back
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
It is something I do want to go back and watch again though, because watching this episode we were discussing, it's kind of reinvigorated me for Enterprise.
Yeah. I mean, it's so good. Like, I mean, one of my complaints about season 4 is that it brings in loads of new characters and then just doesn't use the existing ones. Like, where, like, Hoshi and Travis just are ignored. Like, they don't do anything in season 4, I don't think. Do they? Like, whereas it brings in the whole, like, security team thing, and it's got them, and they've got that animosity with, like, Malcolm and stuff, and it's a bit like, okay, but we've got characters at home.
It was sort of season 4 was sort of like a very, very soft reboot. Where it was just like, okay, we've had season 3, now let's get back to what Star Trek actually. And it really, really, really annoyed people because it was only cancelled because of the way UPN was managed, the way they messed around with this, very much like Firefly. They messed around with the schedule for Enterprise so much in America that, hey, can we watch Enterprise next week? Well, I don't know when it's on because it was on at 9 p.m, but now it's on at 11:15 after the baseball
really
game.
difficult when they've done it as a continuing plot line.
Yeah,
where you just go, because
100%.
they wanted to do it like, oh, what's it called, the the syndication, where they just go, oh, just put the episodes out in any order on any network kind of thing. And it's like, you can't do the Xindi War, you can't do season 4 like that.
Yeah, it was and this was an age, this was like 2004, 2005. This was before Netflix and on-demand servicing, so it was like, if you missed it, that was it. Like, you could get it on a videotape or DVD later on, and that, you could.
Yeah.
So it was horrendously mismanaged, and it was cut short. But do you want to know my history?
Yes, go on. I'll settle in.
Go for it.
Go.
Wow. So obviously, hardcore Trekkie, I got in on the ground floor. I heard murmurings of a new Star Trek show, and everyone thought, oh, it's going to be, set after Voyager and everything like that. And they were like, no, this is a prequel. This is set at a time before Kirk and everything like that. Now, at the time, with the lack of internet and everything, there was an air of mystery. They used to call it like the lost period of Star Trek, between First Contact and the original series, and we get it between the Undiscovered Country and the Next Generation. There's like 2 big missing gaps in the Star Trek timeline that a lot of fans wanted to explore. And at the time, there was a big push for a Star Trek Excelsior series with George Takei as Sulan. So he, obviously in the Undiscovered Country, he was captain of the Excelsior and he blasted away into the sunset. And then he did the 1996 episode of Voyager, where he was a Kara,
which we've already done, haven't we?
And there was a huge drive from Takei himself and from all the fans to have like an Excelsior spin-off exploring the forgotten time of Star Trek. So Paramount being Paramount, they were like, we hear you, here's this completely different thing. So when Enterprise came, they were like, this is set like 100 years before Kirk. And it was like, it captured me, because it was like, how are they going to do it? How is the ship going to look? These are the first foray into the galaxy and exploration, and they're going to have bog standard stuff. They're not going to have phases and stuff. And I was captivated, because the first little inkling I saw, and it's so fucking funny, it was the 35th anniversary. And we saw like a blueprint of the Enterprise, and then they'd played a clip on BBC Two with Rick Berman commenting, and it was literally where Archer meets T'Pol for the first time in the ready room.
Yeah.
And he just goes, the Vulcans don't think we can flush a toilet without one of them to assist us. And I'm just like, I want this show now. And like, I didn't have Sky or anything like that back then, so I got my neighbour to tape every single episode.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That's nice.
And I watched it, and I watched Enterprise, and I was captivated. I was hooked. This was like the best looking Star Trek at the time. Everything was fully 3D. The lighting was better. Because this was the first Star Trek series filmed entirely on high definition film. So the upscaling of this, when it went to Blu-ray, straight away, it was like, yep, 1080p, that's fine, we can do it. So it looked good. And to this day, like I watched it on my new TV downstairs, and I was like, it still holds up. Like to this day. I mean, there's a few dodgy green screen effects here and there, but it's just like, no, this is actually really good.
I was just enjoying that, like in this, we get to see a couple of little slight CG effects, like the shuttlecraft leaving the actual, leaving Enterprise and stuff. And it looks pretty good. Like it's the idea of going, that's pretty good. Like it doesn't have that kind of, this is CG look that Voyager had, where it looked good, but it was very obviously computer graphics.
I was discussing this with James before we went on air. The NX-01, which is on the bookcase behind me, Doug Drexler designed this, and Doug is famous for when he designs a ship, he goes into near insanity levels of detail, where obviously for those exterior shots, it's a fully rendered 3D model. And you could literally zoom in on this 3D model all the way to the airlock and see the airlock number on it. That's how detailed these models are. Yeah. So he literally went into every single facet, and that gave it lent to the authenticity of the show, because it was just like, no, these deck plates are this color for a reason, and these vents are this color, and I loved it. But I love the theme tune, hands down. When I'm dead and in my funeral, Fear for the Heart's going to play. For the 3 people that turn up, Fear for the Heart's going to play. What I treasure the most, though, and this is why I got like a little bit emotional when season 2 came up. What I most remember was, it was 2003. I was incredibly ill. I think I had meningitis, and I was recovering from meningitis. And I was incredibly ill, and I was on the sofa in my old house, and I was with my grandmother. And obviously, I can't do anything. I've got no strength. I couldn't play on the PlayStation 2. That's right, I'm that old. So she said, well, do you want to watch Star Trek? And it was at a time where there was not like now where you can go onto TV and there's like, oh, the original series, DS9, Voyager.
Yeah.
I had every VHS tape of the second half of season 2. We watched, and this is no lie, 10 to 12 hours of season 2 of Star Trek Enterprise non-stop all day. And she sat there with me all the way through and watched it with me. And that is one of my most treasured memories of me and my grandmother together, because we both love Star Trek, but she didn't have to do that, but she sat with me for 10 to 12 hours and just went through the whole second half of season 2. And
that's amazing.
That's so wonderful.
I will treasure that for the rest of my life, but I will love Star Trek Enterprise for the rest of my life because of that memory. And let's be honest, our friends at the Shuttlepod show, come on, you've got Connor, you've got Mark, you've got Dom, everyone who worked on Enterprise, and it's just it feels weird to watch, love this show as deeply as I do, and then make friends with people who were on it and work around it, and it's just like it feels like everything's come full circle.
Yeah.
But it just, as soon as we saw season 2 last week, that was it. I was emotional, and I will defend Star Trek Enterprise to the hilt because it had its haters, like every other Star Trek series.
Like all of them.
It had its haters. It's got a crap theme song and they're all in jumpsuits. Shut
To
up.
be fair, you have Trekkies who are like, oh, I don't like Star Trek. It's rubbish. Just in general, you know.
Yeah, he's just like, why are you here? You know,
You literally.
it's like on Facebook groups where you have people who are in groups for a particular subject and then just hate on it, and you're like,
no one
why?
hates things more than fans of it.
You have
Yeah.
Trekkies, and this is completely true. I have encountered Trekkies at conventions where they go, I only like season 1 of the original series. And then I just go, why are you here?
Yeah, it's
Like, you literally love 26 episodes from 57 years ago.
yeah.
You think everything else after that is crap. So why
It's a
are
weird
you here?
flex.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
very bizarre, yeah.
But
And,
I
and
think
it's the sort of thing of the wonderful thing is for any kind of fandom, at least try. At least
Yeah.
go, hey,
Sorry,
you
2
might not like the
months.
next generation, but give it the time of day, you know? Like it's that.
It's what I love though, very much like Deep Space Nine. It's gained more traction in popularity since 2010 with the advent of Netflix.
Yeah.
As soon as it was put on Netflix, the popularity just increased because people who weren't able to watch it in the early 2000s because of Paramount's disastrous scheduling have discovered Enterprise and gone, it's actually not that bad. It's actually really good. Very much like Deep Space Nine, very much like more Star Trek, where it's on demand. There's a box set there, and you can binge all 4 series in a week if you're brave enough. And they've gone, it's actually really good. And a lot of people who work in, like Connor has been in conventions, and people have come up to him and said, I've only been a fan of your show for the last 10 years because it came onto Netflix. And it's brilliant. And if only I was able to watch it when it was on air. And, they're just like, to
be fair, though, I think the Gentle Dorks in the chat has raised a very good point of, I think Enterprise had too much to hate compared to any other shows. And I think this is really valid because all the stuff that I love about season 1 of Enterprise, I can see anyone who is just expecting another Trek series to hate because
Do you think
it's all that sort of beginning bit, where you're just going, oh, the universal translator doesn't exist yet. That is still being developed. It's like, oh, the Vulcans are dickheads and we haven't got a relationship with them. Oh, we can't actually hold up in a fight. Oh, we don't have holodecks and all of these things. And you're like, but that was what was great about it.
Yeah.
But you wonder, maybe they set it too far back, like going, hey, it's
an interesting one because I think from like Next Generation through where we were with Nemesis, you had so many years of continuous timeline building from Encounter at Farpoint through to Nemesis, and I think many people were expecting the next thing after Nemesis, whatever it was, like what happened after Voyager got back, what happened after in the wake of Riker getting the Titan. But I think it's interesting you say about there was a lot to hate about it. Obviously, and we discussed this before coming on as well, Next Generation got a lot of hate when it was about to air as well, for various reasons.
That is that newspaper article that's around on the internet of people being like, he's not Kirk, he's bald. And he's just like, oh God.
One of the things as well, and I think it's true of modern Trek, we are, it was, everyone had the internet as Enterprise was coming out. Now, the internet was around for Voyager and DS9, because I remember I made a bloody fan site of Voyager and DS9 and all that. I was making Star Trek fan sites and stuff. I had a little Choose Your Own Adventure Kobayashi Maru that I'd put together. But I think Enterprise sort of aired just as, the birth of social media, forums were at their height. So the hate for it was really amplified, because I remember there being a huge amount of negativity for Enterprise. And I'll admit, sometimes I always call myself easily pleased because I just like things. I like things. I mentioned I dropped off Enterprise, but I never turned around and went, oh, I hate this. I really dislike it. I dropped off.
Yeah.
But I think the internet really amplified that hate. And I think for many people, they look back on it some 10 years later and go, actually, this wasn't as bad as we said it was.
Yeah.
We just went on with what was amplified. And I think that is going to happen with a lot of modern Trek. I know everyone's got their opinions about modern stuff and has problems with it, but I think 10 years from now, Discovery is going to be looked back on more fondly, and people are going to go, maybe we were a bit too harsh, or maybe people were a bit too harsh on it.
Yeah,
I
I
agree,
think
yeah.
this is definitely it. Like that can totally happen to any series. Like I wonder if, like you're saying, because the internet was like not in it, it was past its infancy, but it's the idea of would Enterprise have worked better if it started more discussion. Like, like you remember, like back in the day, we had shows like Lost and stuff, where
Mm-hmm.
every week people would go on the internet and promote it by talking about what they thought was happening and stuff.
I
And
I
it's
loved Lost. That is one
yeah,
of my
it
favorite
was a
shows of all
phenomenon
time. Yeah.
from people chatting and going, I don't know what's happening. And so if Trek had gone in a more sort of murder mystery kind of way, would it have had more engagement rather than
Mm.
being like, it's a standard kind of
The
show?
the
I don't
problem
know.
the problem that Enterprise had for a lot of people was, like I said, this was so in America there was a TV channel called UPN. Now UPN
Mm.
launched when Star Trek Voyager aired in July 1995. So Voyager was the flagship of this channel. When Voyager ended in 2001 in May, Star Trek Enterprise started in September 2001. What else happened in September 2001? So there was
Mhm.
sort of a
Something. There was something.
yeah. So there was a cultural feeling of negativity at the time, which didn't help the situation. But what also didn't help was, and we've alluded this all the way through the episode so far, Paramount did not want to associate, and this is going to sound crazy to anyone who's never heard of this. Paramount wanted to disassociate this Star Trek show with Star Trek.
That's why it was called
Now,
Enterprise, wasn't it? At
They
first?
removed Enterprise, so for the first 2 seasons, it was just called Enterprise. No Star Trek, no nothing. The theme tune was radically different. No orchestral arrangement from Jerry Goldsmith or anyone like that. It was a Dionne Warren written song, which was originally done by Rod Stewart for Patch Adams and then sung by Russell Watson. Of all people, an opera singer, Russell Watson.
He's all grown up now.
He's all grown up now. And,
He's not walking in the air anymore.
but then it was like, this is, and I remember them saying this at the time, and I'm like, are you high? They said this is going to be the Star Trek series that not just geeks talk about over the water cooler, and I'm just like, no. So I think initially, before the ship left dry dock, there was a few misfires already, because if they'd have just started with, this is a Star Trek show, Star Trek Enterprise, this is, this is 100 years, this is an authentic prequel to Star Trek, if they'd have just marketed it correctly, I think it would have been more successful. The other issue with it was there was so much interference from the executives at UPN and Paramount that it was a constant firefight between the showrunners, the producers, and the network execs, because as crazy as it sounds, UPN and Paramount had a plan that every week there was going to be in the mess hall,
I love this,
a boy band or some sort of singing whatever group or singer or anything like that.
Is this a 70s Hanna-Barbera cartoon?
This is God's honest truth, James. Right? So every week, this was the plan. Every week, because obviously the mess hall is where they gathered for movie time. So why not have movie time and concert time? Because we had it on the D when they used to do the string quartets and everything.
Yeah,
So
right,
the
with
plan
his
was,
trombone.
and his sex swing. The plan was, they would sing a song on the show that week, and then the day after, Paramount would release the single for people to go and buy. Rick Berman, for all of his flaws, Rick Berman said 2 words, and one of them ended in off. But this was the level.
First one was.
But this was the level
I
of
have to say, though,
interference.
I have to say, though, I do actually love that as an idea, but I don't love it as an idea for Trek.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
very much the idea of going executives being like, oh, I've got this great idea. What can we slap it on? And you're like, that is not how this works. That is
yeah,
a terrible, terrible idea. And it's this idea of like any other show that could quite work on. That's a great marketing technique to be like, hey, look, we get budding pop stars. We can, you can really market stuff like this. But why? Why would they have different bands when the crew is like 100 people? How many bands do they have? Like if they're
Everyone's
literally
in a
just,
band.
yeah. But
yeah,
we
like
were
half of
getting
season one is them going, oh, we got chinned in a fight again and everything's barely functioning. Oh, we've picked up this random quartet. We picked up this random pop band. It would be hilarious, but yeah, it's not Trek.
we were getting
No,
we were getting
absolutely.
to a point where executives did not know the subject material, so did not care. Like I said with the NX-01, when they were designing the ship, they wanted it to look, more archaic than the Constitution class from the original series. They literally went, oh, let's just take the Akira class from First Contact and just use that. No one will notice. And it was just like,
No, they will.
you've never
No,
met
they
a Star
will.
Trek fan, have you? So, do you know what I mean? Like, anyone can see that. But then the other idea, which I would have found really interesting for season one, it was not going to be in space at all for season one. They were going to build up to the launch of the NX-01 at the end of season one. Then they go out. So it would have been the political struggles with the Vulcans restricting them from launching and developing the engine, and the failures and the crashes and the deaths and stuff like that, the turmoil that is involved. Very much like it was going to parallel the 60s space race. So it was like, we've got this engine, we've got this ship, and it's just like, it damn near killed, it killed my father before you could even see it and stuff like that. But then the executives were like, no, there needs to be more pew pew action. And again,
it's a tough one. How would you do that though? Like,
but
It is.
yeah,
I would have an entire season dedicated to that. I wouldn't have necessarily been in favor of, but the first few episodes dedicated to that, because sometimes when we see, like, for lack of better terms, starship porn, we all enjoy that in the films. The sweeping shots in the motion picture and so
there's a
on and
lot
so
of them.
forth. That it's like, we love seeing that. And there's a shot in the 2009 one where you see the Enterprise being built, and it would have been really cool to kind of, I said, maybe dig into that a little bit than building the Enterprise. The Vulcans being what they were. And when we maybe talk about the episode, I'll talk about how surprised I was, because I'd forgotten just how prickly the Vulcans were in Enterprise. Just being like that, trying to feel, oh, this won't work. You're not ready to do this, and the defiance of humanity. It would have been interesting for a few. I don't think it could have carried an entire season, but it's definitely a idea that'd be worth exploring.
The narrative problem you have with it is that basically you need to, in season one, you need to go, hey, here's our characters, here's the people that we rely on, and then basically go, hey, here's who are the show, because Star Trek is always about the characters. It's always an ensemble cast. And you do risk going, hey, season two, we go into space. Well, that random receptionist woman's not coming with us, or all of the scientists are probably not going to come with us and stuff. And then you're like, how do you do? And then it's like, so it's that weird thing that I think it does need to get off the ground running.
Yeah.
But they do a fairly good job of introducing, going, we are in the middle of this bullshit with the Vulcans. So,
but it's also,
it does quite well, but a whole season.
But it's also a time where humanity's attitude is very much that of the 20th, 21st century, where they've still got that, they have not got an evolved sense of being and nobility and stuff like that, where they're just like, you've got Trip Tucker, where he's just like, I'm 4 steps away from knocking you on your ass and stuff like, do you know what I mean? It's just like, they are human, but in a Star Trek universe. So they are like modern humans in a Star Trek universe.
And I think that is what's so great about this episode. Because this episode demonstrates how wonderful season 1 and 2 and 4 are, because 3 doesn't, I don't know if 3 accomplishes much, but it's basically how good that is in terms of going, this is how the Federation happens. And it was meant to be over 7 seasons, But the idea of, where there's a moment in this episode where Archer's basically going, I have a feeling that our mission isn't just to explore stuff, it's also to, you know, form relations with other
Be
races and
part
try
of
to
a
become
larger
something bigger than we are.
community. Yeah.
And you just like, and the idea of that dawning on them, because it literally,
It's
the whole
that
mission of
growth.
Enterprise is to go and explore stuff with human curiosity.
Yeah.
It's not to create a federation of planets.
So this episode that we are here to, I mean, we've just
45 minutes in.
45 minutes in. The synopsis of this episode is basically the Andorians contact Captain Archer. They want help mediating a discussion between themselves and the Vulcans over the fact that over this occupied planet. This is a well-rounded episode, I'd say. I don't think it's one of the best ones, but considering it's a mid-season episode, it's fairly strong for where it was positioned in the season, and it does open up a lot of avenues for the show, like you alluded to when he's talking to Dr. Phlox, where he's just like, maybe we're not just out here to explore strange new worlds and encounter new civilizations. Maybe we are out here because we want to be part of a larger community than what we are now. We want to work with other species, not just the Vulcans. We want to work with the Andorians, work with these races, to strive for a common goal.
Because the initial thing is obviously Shran, who is leading the Andorians, reaches out to him because he's like, okay, we need a mediator, and we need someone that I can trust, and I actually trust this pink skin, this Archer. Like, he actually seems to have a really good sort of sense of fairness. And obviously the Enterprise are just going, why are we involved in this dispute between two races that aren't us? And then it's kind of dawning on them, being like, hey, maybe this is what we do. Like, maybe this is how we can contribute to the galaxy.
And it's sort of that sort of trope they do, like the whole mediating is something that obviously gets used frequently throughout the Star Trek series. When I saw the synopsis of it, I thought, this is like a classic sort of Trek dilemma. The two warring races, the captain who's brought in to do it. But when you look at it from the perspective you mentioned there, this is like the first time that they get to do this. This is the first time they get to be that bridge between the two races and that realization, hey, we're part of something bigger here. Because I think there's a sort of a perception, I guess, maybe why repeat the wrong way, that as soon as first contact happened, as soon as the Vulcans came down, that's it. Humanity is immediately
evolved and tried.
Humanity immediately evolved. Yeah. We saw the Vulcans. We went, oh, amazing. We're all problems are solved now, and it's very unrealistic. But I think people sometimes when they see Star Trek's Utopia, they think it happened overnight. Well, it didn't. You have to work. You had to work for it. And
that's it.
Sure.
And
you have to work for it.
This suggests that there was 100 years of since the Vulcans arrived, just being like, "Hey, no, don't touch anything. No, just sit down and just calm down. We'll discover. You can go to space, next week." Yeah.
There's a lot of like there was a book I've got. It's called The Federation: The First 150 Years, and it is beta canon, but it goes into a lot of, Earth. At the time of first contact in 2063 was still recovering from the third thing that we won't mention because YouTube will go haywire. But 600 million dead. It was a nuclear wasteland for most of it. It was and it was like the Vulcans made first contact, and they were like, it alludes to for the first 50 years. They were repairing Earth. They were like curing the land, curing the mutated, the ill, the getting rid of poverty and stuff like that. And then, all the while Earth was sending out probes because the Vulcans were like, no, you can't just get up in a ship and go. You have to fix your shit. You have to deal with your shit. And it was that the animosity. Well, not the animosity, but the anxiety that the Vulcans had was like, this alien race has discovered warp drive within 10 years of nearly destroying itself. Yeah. What are they going to do when they go to another planet? And what are they going to do when they do this?
It's sort of like a flaw with the whole first contact thing, really, in that just because a civilization has managed to discover warp doesn't necessarily mean that they are ready to engage with that larger community of races. I
And
mean, you could argue at this point in the timeline that none of these races were really fully ready to communicate or be around each other because they're all a little bit arsey.
Well, I think this is why.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think this is why the Vulcans saw obviously the Phoenix break the warp, and I think this is why they made first contact, because they were like, we've seen that this primitive race, what they can do to themselves. We don't want this situation. Essentially, right? The Vulcans are NIMBYs, okay? The humans have moved into the neighborhood. They've discovered warp drive, and they're just like, oh god, they're gonna have parties with hot tubs. So they sort of stepped in with the Neighborhood Watch Alliance and have gone like, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. By the way, you don't want to do this, and they've restricted like the advancements in technology, because warp 1 will get you to the end of the solar system in like, I think it's like 11 hours or days or something like that. So it's not actually that fast. But then they were like, they saw how quickly humanity was progressing, and they're sort of like, oh god, they've gone from warp 1 to warp 3 to warp 4. Shit, we need to slow them down. And like at the time of Enterprise, the Vulcans are like cruising around at warp 7, and humanity's barely scratching warp 5, which is like 100 times slower than warp 7. And they were sort of like, we are protecting ourselves, we are protecting you, and then we are protecting everyone else. But the way that the Vulcans approached it, as we see all the way through Enterprise, it's like they look down upon humans because they are a primitive species. But in reality, they are terrified of the humans because they remind them of Vulcans of, ancient times who were violent and volatile, and they don't want that to happen to them or to the region that they inhabit.
It's like humanity could have gone one. I mean, literally, we see that with the Mirror Universe. Humanity could have gone one of two different ways.
Yeah.
With it all.
Shake hand or shotgun.
Yeah.
It is a strange thing though with the Vulcans, because like you're saying, James, they see themselves in us and the way that they went. And it's the fact of humanity could easily go that same way. Like it could easily just be like, because we develop so quickly and we sort of get around things so quickly. And it's very strange that it doesn't go into this that much, really, that Vulcans are terrified of what humanity can accomplish.
Season 4.
Well, no, it's like
I know what you mean.
I know season 4, but it's that idea of it does get there eventually.
I mean, it's a thing though. It's like for so long you just kind of look at them and you go, "God, you're pricks, aren't you?"
Yeah,
like,
and we see
takes
that
a while
a
to
lot.
get to that point.
We see that a lot.
Well, we see that in this episode.
We do.
In this episode, we basically see that logic isn't correct. Like logic and wisdom are not the same thing. So we have stuff where the Vulcans are drawing conclusions about stuff, and you're like, but you are totally wrong. You don't actually know that. And I understand that is the logical way to think of things, but it doesn't mean it's right.
It's like a probability thing for them. It's like, well, logically, if we say it's 80% going to be like this, then we go with the 80% because it's a logical thing to do. But that's not how it works.
Yeah.
We the perfect example is your randomization at the bottom of the screen right now.
Yeah.
Logically, you'd expect it all to be mishmashed up, but it doesn't work like that.
It just
well, with the Dabo Wheel, you'd have expected Enterprise to appear in like 52 spins, but it didn't.
It's sort of, when you see the Andorians and the Vulcans, they are A and B, they are dark and light, red and blue. And then they go, oh, well, the humans, they are the wild card, because the humans have outside of the box thinking. So, like, the Andorians want to talk, the Vulcans don't want to talk, they just want to remove them. The humans are just like, well, let's just talk, and let's just go to them. Let's just give you. And I have to give props, because we get all the fucking characters for Star Trek Enterprise in this episode. We get the amazing Jeffrey Combs as Shran. We get the late great Gary Graham, who sadly passed away a couple of weeks ago, but he is a terrific actor all the way through Enterprise. He's terrific, and one of the characters that has such an arc from episode 1 all the way through to episode 4, where he's like, episode 1, you are a dick, and then all the way to episode 4, where he's just like, wow, you were actually like, you have evolved your character. And you
Which
were
is
well-rounded.
great.
Yeah, it's
because
brilliant.
I was saying, obviously, we were talking before we started about the fact of obviously the actor did pass away recently,
Yes.
but it's a testament to his acting ability how much I dislike Saval, like
Yeah.
how much of a dickhead he is. I mean, literally, he starts his attitude in season 1 is like he was having a wank and someone knocked on the door. That's literally him for the first like 10
Having a
episodes.
Vulcan nerve pinch.
Yeah, that's it. It's gone dead in my hand. But
Oh.
On the neck,
it's
not
the fact
down
that,
there. Sorry.
but he's just so he's so frustrating, and it's that weird thing because obviously this is our first time seeing proper Vulcans en masse. Like, we've had half Vulcans like Spock, and then we've had like Tuvok, who was great, and then in this one we get T'Pol, who is amazing. Like, she's one of the
Jolene
best.
Blalock is
And
Rock
then
is
you
very
get,
good.
Then you get Saval, who is representing the sort of thinks he's a great Vulcan, but he is actually very emotional. Like, his little bitchy bits and his little his little rants and the bits where he's obviously discontent about stuff, and you're like, these are what you're meant to pride yourself on repressing, and he doesn't do a very good job with it, I think.
But he goes too much into his own pride and that,
Yeah.
doesn't he? That's
Which is
it.
an
He is
emotion
hubris
of all things.
in
Yeah.
this episode. The Vulcans are hubris personified. That is exactly what they are in this, where they're just like, I wrote down the actual what happens. Okay, is basically, the Andorians found a planet that no one had claimed, so they immediately put equipment on it to start terraforming it to make it into their own planet. They build a settlement on it, and then the Vulcans look at it and go, "Oh, that's very close to our space. Logically, they must only want it to attack us because it's a tactical, location."
Yep.
They don't know that. They've just assumed that. And then they just go, "Okay, cool. Well, what we'll do is we'll go down and we'll ask them if they'll let us inspect their settlement." And the Andorians are like, "No, no,
you've
can't
got
look
no
at-"
right to do that.
Yeah, and then the Vulcans basically go, "Okay, well, we're going to annex it. We've claimed this planet now for ourselves, and then we get rid of all the settlers and we put them all in camps." And you're sitting there being like, the logic of, the only thing they could possibly be doing is a base in order to attack us, therefore we have permission to claim it off them. And they are dead set in this. They will not... T'Pol is just like, well, whatever conclusion could there possibly be? And it's that idea of logic over compassion or reason, or even just talking, maybe. Like, discussing it.
God forbid, communication.
I was discussing this with Kelly, Colour with Wonder on Twitch, who's... I was discussing this, and I said, this episode mirrors current events in the world, where it's just like, they occupy land, they're terraforming that land, that must mean it's a military base and it's very close to us, or it's ours now, because we thought that they were going to do something bad with it, so it's ours now, and we forcibly removed the inhabitants. Now this
there just happened to be oil there as well.
Yeah, but that little
we're
scene,
getting really back to the 2000s, aren't we?
But that little scene in the Captain's Mess where they're discussing that, or where T'Pol's given a backstory where it's just like, they discovered it first, they terraformed it, we annexed it, and then there was a treaty in 2097 where the planet was just completely uninhabited, and there was a satellite in place, and now the Andorians are invading our planet, and it's like there's two different names for it. The Vulcans call it Pon Makar, the Andorians call it Weitan. Now, on our Discord, on the Nerdy Up North Discord, and on the Nerdy Up North Twitter page, I'm going to say Twitter, it is not X. On the Twitter page,
it sounds like porn if you call it X. I'm sorry.
We do have a poll about this that basically asks, who do you feel was right in their claim of the planet? Was it the Andorians, the Vulcans, neither, or there was another one, wasn't there? There was another both. Yeah. I am very much in the camp of the Andorians discovered it. The Andorians were terraforming it. If there was zero evidence of any sort of military installation on that planet, then by all intents and purposes, it is the Andorians' planet. Yeah. All right, it's close to the Vulcan border, but if there is no military installation, if there is no threat, then what the Vulcans did was wrong. And I think this scene exposes the Vulcans of this time as, yes, it was a bit close, so we just removed the colonists. And even
Yeah.
Trip goes, by force? And it's never alluded to. And it's just like, it really shows that the Vulcans are like, they're paranoid, but then they are also like, their logic is so heavily at the forefront of their mind that they go, well, logically, it must be that. Not one shred of evidence to confirm it. Even when the planet's left and they could have inspected it, not one shred of evidence that anything untoward was going on.
And this is the thing. I was having a discussion with Adam earlier about anxiety and the fact that your brain tricks you with anxiety disorder to be like, oh well, what I'm doing is logical.
Yeah.
The me panicking about stuff or me sort of overthinking stuff, oh that's naturally logical. And the Vulcans are very much this, where they're going, they are scared of this thing happening that they have no evidence of, that there might be. The Andorians are a warlike race. They might be trying to attack. But at the same time, they might not be. You don't know. And yet they're acting brutally in a dangerous way in order that actually upsets the Andorians more, obviously, in order to make themselves feel safer. Whereas the hilarious thing is logically, if that planet was in a tactical position and could have been dangerous, they should have grabbed it first.
Yeah.
Like and it's this idea of their failure is why this situation has come up, which is.
But then it's like it's sort of the question, like, if they wanted it as a military base, as an outpost because of its proximity to Vulcan space, why would they go through so much effort to terraform the planet?
Yeah. Just put a base on it and some missiles
on there. Yeah,
just put an outpost, put a star base on there. You wouldn't, if you were just going to use
a Bajor thing and just be like, oh, it's got, you know, what the Romulans tried to do with Bajor, where they're like, oh, it's a hospital. I'm like, why is it full of missiles?
It's a hospital for missiles. So
oh, the missile's sick.
So I loved it that when Enterprise arrives at the planet, I'll just say the planet, I won't give it a name either way. The Saval comes aboard, and Saval is just Saval, where he's just going, I didn't even invite you here. The Andorians wanted you. I am in the middle of negotiations, and you're just going to get up. And it's just like, and I love the fact that Archer just counters that and going, well, if you don't want us, we'll be off. And it's just,
calls them off.
I've got things to do.
But this is how stupid the Vulcans are. It's like they're talking about how logical they are and how like higher and how like much better they are than the humans. And then you're like, you are the worst negotiators in the entire fucking world.
No, they're not even trying.
Literally,
they're not even
like
trying.
Going into a place. Yeah, it's like going into a place being like, hello, you fucker, I'd like a pay rise. And he's just like, did you think that would work?
They're not. They don't even try to negotiate. They just think they've got this right to it and force them away. But then they don't even see like the logic that introducing a mediator, a sort of chaotic element, could benefit both people, and ultimately it does, because that's the whole point of a mediator. It's a neutral party, and like you said, it's that fear. It's they're trying to go too hard on their logic and seeing no room for wavering from it at all. It's like, no, logic must be 100% right, even when, you know, there's room for failure here.
But Shran is right, because the whole reason Archer's there is because the Vulcans want to talk, but the Vulcans want to talk in a way that drags the situation on for years and nothing is achieved. And Shran goes, no. If we are going to talk, we are going to get results, and we are going to do this now. And it's sort of, that's why Archer's brought in, because he knows very much, again, parallel in real world events, where it's just like, I am open for negotiations. However, we will drag them on for 4 years and nothing will be achieved.
Well, this is the thing. Two questions. One, do you think the Vulcans deliberately do that so that they never actually need to make a decision and that it's a tactical thing?
Possibly.
Two, because what we see is the sheer arrogance where when we have T'Pol and Archer going down to the planet to meet Shran to have the initial discussion, like deliberations with him. Like T'Pol's like, oh, did you read all of those documents I gave you? I've given you like, thousands of pages of Vulcan documents about the situation and the legality and how our laws work and how we want to do all of this. And Archer's like, no, I didn't read all of that. I glanced at it, but I don't really. And she's like, well, how are we going to do this if we don't do it the Vulcan way? That kind of attitude of, oh, well, the best way to handle this situation is the Vulcan way because it's the Vulcan way.
It's because it's
and
a logical way
like,
that we've decided.
No,
we're going to wing it.
I've forgotten the actual line, but he basically just goes, we're not going to win over the Andorians with Vulcan logic.
ways. Yeah. Hello to Mark in the chat. You have missed all the debauchery. Don't look at the beginning. But
oh, hi Damon. Damon's in the chat as well.
Oh, hello, David. He's from nice France. But it's I like T'Pol in this scene though, because she's quite rightly, like you said there, Synoiz, where she's like, it must be dealt with in the Vulcan way. But she is also very much in Archer's camp, where she's like, Saval is expecting you to fail, so I am preparing you the only way I know how, by giving you the Vulcan way of negotiating it. And Archer's just like, I'm going to wing it.
Yeah. It was interesting seeing T'Pol in this episode, because you can kind of see, because I remember, again, not watching them in a very long time, but I remember what she was like at the very start of the series. She was very rigid in that same way. She was like, no, logical way is the right way. You are going to fail. You are rubbish. You're humans or whatever. But in this, she's like, it's that conflict. You can see her growth. In fact, she's learning that maybe her way isn't the best way just because it seems to be the most logical way. There are other ways to go it. But that doesn't necessarily mean she has to sacrifice who she is. I think that's one of the fears the Vulcans have as well. Is that if they think that if they bend in any way at all from what is the most logical thing, then they sacrifice who they are, and immediately they're going to go back to being the way they were. And that's a fear. When all of us do things in the past that we might not necessarily be proud of, or things that are mistakes, and hopefully all of us learn to be better people. But I think for a lot of us, if we have made a mistake in the past or whatever, there might be a part of us that thinks, God, if we don't do the right thing, if we don't continue on this path, we might go back to being that person. It's varying degrees, because I'm saying as if we've all done something horrible in the past, but we all grow. I
went to a Middlesbrough game, so I have plenty of regrets.
I'm a fan of Middlesbrough, so our matches aren't that bad.
But you're exactly right though, James. The transition that T'Pol has, but it's the Vulcans are basically a walking coping mechanism. They are literally like the OCD that, I need to touch all the fence posts as I walk past. I need to walk around the room 3 times and turn all the light switches on in order to go to bed kind of thing. Their whole life seems to be this, of dealing with, I say their humanity, but their sort of inner anger and stuff is very much them trying to balance all of this in ceremony and in process, like meditation and whatnot. But then it means that when they interact with other races, they're like, we have no common ground here at all. And like you're saying, it's wonderful getting this episode here where we see Saval and T'Pol in the same place, where they started off being the same kind of Vulcan, and now we've got T'Pol who's more mellowed and opening up to the idea of going, I started thinking the Vulcan way was the only way, but I've seen a lot of examples now of going, humans get results doing illogical, crazy shit. And I'm kind of going, and that's the whole message of Trek. The whole message is like multiculturalism. It's all like, if we all go together and we all get everyone's strengths, we become a better thing.
It's multiculturalism and it's frosted tips. Because God damn it, I'm cursing Connor Trenier for giving me this hairstyle. He
says he's wearing a hat.
What I have to wear the hat. It's part of the uniform. What I love though is when Archer goes to meet Shran, and Shran has a list of demands. Archer just goes,
they're brilliant though. They're like, just give us the planet. And you're like, okay,
rescind the 2097 treaty, give us the planet, acknowledge our sovereignty. And Archer's just like, are you high?
And I want a jet.
And lifetime supply of Viennetta? No.
And I want a nice car.
It's melted now.
Oh, that's like the dude from Naked Gun too, isn't it? I want a nice car outside. I want a Porsche.
I love the idea if it was Viennetta and everyone's like, "What the fuck's that?" And I'm like, it's a like
Viennetta.
90s dessert, basically.
Do you know? I am of an age where I can afford a Viennetta, and I don't because I'm just not.
They're only £1 in Iceland.
But James, I'm not that decadent.
Oh well, there you go.
I need to set the mood.
When I was at university, there was a pizza shop, like the regular one we had every time we went for a night out, like drinking, and they had just ice cream on the menu. And we were like, "Oh, should we order the ice cream?" And one day we did, and it was just a full Viennetta, like like this big, and we're just going like, "This is more than my wildest dream."
Did you cut it with a knife as well? Did you cut it with a knife slowly as well at the end?
What a world we live in!
Oh,
I just love that it was the fanciest thing after a night out.
Did they offer one single Ferrero Rocher to go on the top?
Oh, Pablo, you're really spoiling us.
With this ball.
This is a complete tangent. I don't even know where we're going.
Tangents.
When I was in secondary school,
tangents here.
When I was in secondary school, we had a teacher who did. They always give like an assembly at the start where they ramble about something for 20 minutes, and then you don't know what the point was. He was talking about him being at home, having a box of Ferrero Rocher and watching the TV, but he kept on saying Ferrero Rocher, and you could just see. You could just hear the ripple of laughter amongst the students, but you could also see all the teachers stood around in the line. Every time he said Ferrero Rocher, all of them looking down, biting their hand, and trying not to laugh at him because he's like the head of year. It's fantastic. What an anecdote.
Rocher. But
I was just started eating this Ferrero Rocher.
It sounds like a porn star name, actually. Hello, I am Ferrero Rocher. Oh, you're really spoiling us.
That is a drag queen name, that Ferrero Rocher.
Goodwill.
I just like the idea of massively just, Ferrari Rocher. You've got any? Oh, it's so fancy. Oh, I bought a pack of 8 of them.
That is my type of human that's pronouncing things wrong intentionally.
Yeah.
Mine is just having an after 8 at 7:59.
But Enterprise. Yeah.
So
Enterprise.
But I love the fact that he negotiates the release of one injured captive. Goes back to Saval and goes, he wants to meet with you on his terms. And Saval's just like, are you drunk?
But again, he literally just goes, you've done a great job of negotiating. So basically,
But Archer comes out again strong with his human logic, where he's just like, he has released a captive as a show of good faith. I am going down with you to do this. We are going to go down, and Saval's just like, nope, you are a walking disaster area. This is just the worst thing you could ever done. And it's like, but what I love is the fact he turns around and goes, the Andorians are willing to talk. The Andorians are willing to be flexible. You are not.
Yeah.
And yet you have claimed that you want to open up a dialogue.
Yeah.
He uses the logic against the Vulcans. And then I love the fact where he just goes, the ball is in your court. And Saval just does that. He's like, huh? This is
I just love that T'Pol translates it for him. And then later on where he's walking down to the shuttle pod and he's just like, he's like, oh, well, the ball is in our court.
Who's saying going down? Why is Make stop saying going down? Going down.
I really like
that. Was it. It was a thing. We really, again, having not seen Enterprise for so long, I forgot how strong a captain Archer was.
Oh, Bakula's amazing.
He's very, very good. Yeah, like the cast were just so good.
Yeah, the cast, like the only one that I feel is difficult is because he's played incredibly well. Like Malcolm Reed is played by Dominic, isn't it?
Yeah,
and the thing is, this character is just he's not a likable character.
Yeah,
because
it's always a problem you have for that.
Yeah, but he's played so well by Dominic. But you do kind of feel a bit like this character's like doesn't have enough going for them because they're such a military guy where the whole thing is they're basically like a human Vulcan who's like, hey, don't talk about feelings, just do this, just work, focus on that. And it's fascinating seeing, but it is like an odd one of going, oh, you didn't even get to play the Doctor because obviously the guy who plays the Doctor,
John Billingsley,
Billingsley, like he's having a time of his life. He's loving this character.
I really love Phlox.
one of the things I really liked in the episode as well is the seeing what was happening on the ship while they were down negotiating and worrying about Archer and that. Get the ships come up and you see them. They get the opportunity to spring into action, show like how much they've learned and how much they can hold their own when they put themselves between the two ships, creating like that sort of situation.
Trip in command.
Yeah, Trip was brilliant.
I was going to ask you
more
this, Goodwill. How does this happen? Like, because what is the order of rank in this? Because it is odd that the chief engineer becoming the captain while like Reed is there while T'Pol is gone technically.
Allow me to get into my Trek facts. I'm out of martini. Shit. So captain and T'Pol, that's the captain and first officer essentially. There is no such thing as a first officer at this period in Starfleet. First officers were invented, well, not invented, but they were brought in like after the original series movies. So that's why Captain Riker, Commander Riker's role was there. So it was Captain Archer, Sub Commander T'Pol, and then the other highest ranking, the third down, is Commander Tucker, who is the chief engineer. Obviously, as a small ship, there's only a crew of 72 on board, so it's literally he is the most senior one. What I absolutely loved, and I know we're jumping ahead slightly, what I absolutely loved, three things. Connor Trinier,
in general,
getting to flex his acting chops. Connor Trinier and his frosted tips, but Trip Tucker taking command and willing, very much like Archer, to do the outside of the box thinking to get a situation done, because he sees you've got these two races about to go to war. He knows what's going to happen if these two fleets meet, and his decision is Parker's right in the middle.
Yeah.
So if they fire, they don't fire on each other, they fire on us. And it's like, that is like a ballsy maneuver, because let's be honest, the NX-01 is a biddly little ship compared to like the mighty Vulcan.
They've only had shields for about 10 episodes at this point. I think. Not even shields. I mean, look at how odd that is. That is a Vulcan ship, and that is massive compared to the NX-01.
That is overcompensating for something.
He's got a big ring. That's all I'm saying. But it's
ring sting.
But it's the fact he's in command, and he's like, I am willing to take us all down to prevent a war. I absolutely, deeply wished the events of Trip Tucker's life did not happen the way they did happen, and we got more of Trip.
It can be retconned.
It will be retconned.
Maybe the last two episodes.
Connor is such an amazing actor. I know he is, Mark.
But no, it's exactly that, and it's how wonderful it is that like this show allows characters to shine in their own kind of way. Like it's I mean, one of my favorite episodes is it Doctor, which is the Phlox episode of season 1.
Oh, Dear Doctor.
Basically, Dear Doctor. That is an amazing episode, and it just goes, hey, the Doctor is a really strong character. And Trip is wonderful, because even at the beginning of this episode, where we have them having dinner together, where it's Archer, Trip, and T'Pol, and it's the fact of how concerned Trip is about the engines and being like, we're going too fast, it's not going to be able to handle it.
They're just quote. Did you get the quote?
What? No.
Where like he's worried that they're pushing the engines too far, like they're running at 110%, and T'Pol's just like, they are rated for 120, and he's just like, yeah, well, me pants are fireproof, but I don't light myself on fire to prove it. And it's just
that's
good
exactly
point.
It.
Yeah.
It's one thing I do like. I remember liking about it.
Oh, thank you, Mark. That means a lot. It really does.
It just had a bit more
just
realism.
$20, Paul can eat a whole pizza. Paul can pay a small child to fold the pizza into his mouth. That's how it's meant, I think.
Anyway, James.
Sorry.
I was just saying, it's one thing I do like about Enterprise is it did sort of introduce a bit more realism in the dialogue. It wasn't as stilted, it wasn't as stiff as some of the later Star Treks obviously went on to be, which were very rigid. And I love Star Trek for that, but also it needed a bit more in between.
it needed, and I think again season 4. But one of my most favorite episodes is from season 3, which is Similitude, which again is a trip focused episode, and the acting breaks me to this day.
I guess you could say it takes you on a trip.
So anyway, the episode, I got really good.
I'm sorry.
You're coming on again.
Hey! I'm really enjoying this. This is about one of the best experiences of my life.
I'm so sorry.
I'm not saying anything.
No.
It's like, there are other things.
I'm from Middlesbrough.
Oh, right, yeah. All there
my,
is terror and death.
My condolences. I'll be sure to do a generations com badge on your stony grave. What I loved, I got serious Undiscovered Country vibes from this, because the shuttle pod gets shot down when they are transporting Saval to the meeting with Shran. But we do get a little scene between Tara, the second in command of Shran, where she's just wanting to push for to wipe out the Vulcan infantry. Now is the time, we can seize the opportunity. And Shran is just like, these are my orders. We will open these negotiations. We will have this dialogue. Follow my orders. And then the shuttle pod is shot down. And then obviously we find out later on that it was the Andorians themselves that shot down the shuttle. God, that is so hard to say.
Shot down the shuttle. Yeah.
I
Especially
love the scene,
Martine again.
but it's a scene towards the end, and I got serious undiscovered country vibes from that, where it's just like, you want peace. How many more of your people don't want peace? How many more people would actually prefer a war with the Vulcans? And it's sort of that. It's because it's been instilled. If you think this little thing, this planet has been a sore point for them for 100 years. It's sort of like England and Argentina over the Falklands. It is a very sore point. And it's just like, some people want the peace and just want to move on. Other people are still extremely bitter about it and are just like, no, F them. I'd rather wipe them off.
It's very much parallel to the fact of, like, people who grew up in war-torn countries, and then they're like we had with 9/11, and like we had with sort of the war in Afghanistan, and they're like, oh, why does this country hate us? And it's like, well, because all the people there grew up under the shadow of all the terrible things America did to them like years ago. And then we can't just expect them just to be like, oh, are you not over that? Or, like, oh, you're not over like having to grow up in that kind of environment.
But it's the same.
That's
it's the
what
same
the
with
Andorians are like.
Yeah,
and they're unreasonable. Like, I am very much. I don't like Tara, and it really annoys me that Tran is trying to get peace, and Tara is like literally undermining it.
You cannot justify her actions at all. But it's understood.
You still go, oh, but we read into this has been like, she's grown up in this like 30 years or whatever, or however many years of this being the situation, and she hates the Vulcans. So the idea of just going, hey, let's just reason with them. I'm sure they're reasonable people. And she's like, I haven't experienced that yet. And obviously people like Saval haven't really helped that,
Sorry. So Shran is very... Although Shran is a battle-hardened, veteran soldier, he's a commander, he's seen action, he is extremely progressive. And he's like, there is... And I think this has all been down to Archer, because before this episode, the last time we had the Andorians was Pajem, where we had a situation like this. It was the incident of Pajem, which destroyed the Vulcan monastery on there.
Which is another Vulcan fuck-up of like, in this episode, even in this episode where they talk about it, where they just go like, sort of like, oh, the Andorians destroyed an intelligence facility and the monastery that we're hiding it in. And you're like, are you not seeing the fault here?
Yeah.
You had a hidden intelligence thing
they
that
destroyed,
you lied about to everyone.
They
and
destroyed
then you're
our
annoyed
monastery.
That it got destroyed.
They destroyed our monastery, but what about the huge satellite dish under? They destroyed the monastery, and it's
that weird thing. It's like going, oh my god, I can't believe the police took my illegal things away, and it's Well,
But between that episode in season 1 and this one in season 2, Shran has evolved his way of thinking. He's become more progressive because of the events of Pajen, because of the interference of the Enterprise crew and Archer by, hey, you don't just have to go in guns blazing to get what you want. There is other ways and means.
He sees that potential better way.
He sees that it's not all bloodshed and violence. You can achieve it through dialogue, through peace. And you can see his frustration where it's like, the Vulcans want to open a dialogue. Great, we can avoid a war. But we know that they will take years, and it will be tedious, and it will be every single... They will be grammatical about it all.
And that will create more tension on the Andorian side.
He goes full Karen, or as we coined it before the year, he goes Karandorian, and demands a face-to-face with the Vulcan manager, which is like he's doing the Andorian way, the Karandorian way. Swallow. And swallow. He's on
Daddy.
Right. Wow. What a way to come in. But he's like...
That's what I said to Lee.
But he's progressive, but he does it in an Andorian way. And like we see with Tara and the other soldiers, they don't think like that because they have grown up with Vulcan oppression, where, yes, this planet was forcibly... people were forcibly removed and put into refugee camps and stuff like that. And it's brilliant because it shows, like... I think Star Trek sometimes will go, oh, the Klingons, they are a warlike race. The Romulans, they are sneaky. And then it's just like, well, no.
They're reduced to a stereotype.
You're stereotyping that race. There are progressive Klingons. There are progressive Romulans, which we see all the way through. And then it's just
we even see it with the Ferengi in DS9. There are progressive Ferengi.
Yeah. Mark had a funny question to ask. Come on, Mark.
Yeah, what was the funny question, Mark?
One thing I was going to say about Tara, and it feeds into what you've literally just said, but it also parallels what we were talking about earlier about, change isn't instant.
No.
Not everyone is going to embrace change immediately. Like we say with the humans, you've got to grow, and Shran's grown. But Tara hasn't had that opportunity to grow, so she's still sort of like very warlike, very antagonistic, because it's like, say it all, she's known. She hasn't had that opportunity. You can kind of like, so you can understand where she's coming from, but you can't justify it. But she hasn't had that opportunity to grow.
I was reminded of a quote, when we saw this, I was reminded of a quote, again, from The Undiscovered Country, from Chancellor Gorkon, where he's talking to Kirk face-to-face in the transporter room. And he's on about the better world because the Federation and the Klingons were doing peace negotiations. And Gorkon goes to Kirk and he goes, if there is to be a better world, our kind will have the hardest time living in it. And it's sort of like, some people don't want peace because they will struggle to cope with that. And we have seen that in the real world where people have come back from war and they have not been able to fully adjust to peacetime because it is literally all they have known.
Yeah.
I mean, to use another franchise as an example, because I saw all the extended editions last year, Frodo in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You look at by the end of that, you look at how much it changes him. He cannot live in that world. And obviously I haven't looked fully into it, but that is based on kind of Tolkien's own experiences during the wars that he was in.
Well, that's it. Frodo has full PTSD. He's been stabbed by a Morgul blade. Which is probably a metaphor for things that he saw during wartime, or Tolkien saw during wartime. But it's this idea of going, you don't go back to normal. Like you never ever get back to what that space was, and that's why he has to go into the West. He has to go like, that life can never be what it was to me. I can't be safe in the Shire anymore. Yeah, I have to just take this gamble and go to the West and diminish. And
it is interesting to see Star Trek tackle that, because I think sometimes I mentioned earlier, Star Trek's utopian ideal. Sometimes it's too idealistic. It's a bit too perfect. It's a bit too Picard would go to a planet, he'd negotiate, everything's hunky-dory now, off we go. Cisco brings someone on Deep Space Nine, he negotiates a treaty, they bugger off, everything's fine and hunky-dory. Voyager, Janeway meddles with the timeline and breaks the Prime Directive and has a drink of coffee.
Janeway screws up an entire quadrant on her way home. whilst
just have
drinking.
this technology. Fuck it, you know.
I mean,
but the good thing is
sorry, Synoiz, just as a quick thing, there is technical issues with the YouTube chat. I do apologise. It's not us. It is the you and the tube. I won't badmouth YouTube because suddenly we get connection issues. I'm gonna blame Beth.
If you Beth, all of the chat problems. It's Nova's fault. That's what I'm saying.
Mark, if you do have a question, send me a message directly. I'll read it out. If anyone else does have questions, just send a message to the Discord, or just find me on Twitter or something like that at Goodwill None, and I will answer them live on the show for you while we get around these technical issues. This, like I said, it is a solid episode. For a mid-season,
I thought it was very good.
For a mid-season episode, it is solid. We get to see every character at least have some dialogue. We get some really strong guest stars. We get the late great Gary Graham. We get Jeffrey Combs. We get Trip taking command, and we just see like the tension build up, and then just get to that point where nothing actually breaks, and it's just like, yes, tension builds up, but it doesn't overspill. You can de-escalate right up to the 0 hour. You know, you can avoid all-out war within the last seconds. And what I loved about the end of the episode is they are having the negotiations on Enterprise, again, a neutral thing. But I love that it's sort of, what is a compromise? A compromise is a solution that no one is happy about. And I love
that line.
I love the fact that just like, let's toast to both of us being dissatisfied.
Really liked that.
About this compromise. And it's just because I had to, when I first watched this, when I was like many moons ago, when I was a wee little lad, I was like, what happened? I didn't get it. But then when you rewatch it, you're just like, yeah, it sort of shows that like negotiations don't always end to the benefit of one party or the other. It's like it can be quite shitty, and it can be just like it's a compromise that no one's really happy about, but it avoids an all-out conflict. And Savol even comes in where it's just like any negotiation that avoids an all-out war is a result for, you know, it's beneficial for us. It's beneficial. And I just love the fact that Savol right at the end, he's just like, your meddling has not been...
No, your presence has not been overly meddlesome.
Yeah, you cannot give credit where it's due.
And I love the fact that Shan goes, I think he likes you.
But this is what I say, like, we talk about T'Pol softening over the course of the thing. In this episode, we see Savol softening because he's a twat, as we've seen at the beginning of it. And yet he has stuff like the bit where they give him a gun and they go like, hey, you need to sort of do some fire to distract the like sniper and whatnot. And he's like, I haven't held a gun in like 50 years and stuff. And they're like, well, fucking do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, this idea of just literally shaking him out of his hubris, like, and the fact of putting him in this danger and putting him in this situation and putting him face to face with this enemy that he was like, oh, I totally know all Andorians the same. And then by the end of the episode, he's like, this Andorian's a bit of an arrogant twat and incredibly bitter. I am also an arrogant twat and incredibly bitter. And this kind of them bonding over both being twats is quite wonderful.
I think what I like, what I like is that Savol as a character is used to never being swayed by anyone else. He is the one that does the swaying. He's the one where everyone bends to his whim because that's his role as a negotiator / intelligence officer, as he used to be, as he said. With Archer, especially, he is the anomaly in his life because Archer shows all the way through season 1, 2, 3, and 4. He can never, ever be swayed by Savol. He can never, like, Savol will say one thing and Archer will just go, no, fuck off. Where, like, we see it in the pilot episode where the Klingon's being operated on by Phlox. And Savol goes, oh, we will take his body back to Cronus. And he's like, body? Is he dead? And then, like, Archer just walks in. He goes, is he dead? No, no. Well, he's subatomic. No. Is he dead? No. So then he goes back to Savol. He's just like, he's not dead. I'm taking him. And it's sort of like that. He goes against Saval's grain, and then what gets Saval is when he meets Shran. Shran is exactly the same, and it sort of makes him realize that, like, oh, like you said, Synoiz, he's a bit of a twat. I'm a bit of a twat. But Archer's involvement sort of got stuff done because he thought of things that logic would prevent me from doing, and maybe the human's emotion, the emotions that they feel, gives them an edge in certain situations like this, because they can see our side as cold-hearted, logical people, and they can see the aggressive, I'm going to punch you in your ears type from the Andorians. And it's like you said, it's the first instance of Shran very coldly but warming to Captain Archer.
Yeah, I just think it's a wonderful episode for that. Like, I'm not gonna say it's one of my favorite episodes of Enterprise. Like, I was more excited about it before I watched it, and then I watched it and I was like, oh, that was great. There's loads to talk about, but it's not really, it wasn't like a landmark thing. But that's a testament to Enterprise having a lot of very good episodes.
Yeah,
I was kind of surprised by the episode, because when I saw the synopsis for it, I thought it was going to be quite one of your prototypical Trek episodes where he gets them around the negotiating table and they're both hammering out the treaty, and you see an end to a bit of tension, and then someone's going to turn up and try and ruin it while they're mid-tension. By the end, it's going to be all resolved. But obviously, a lot of this episode was actually about the journey, just getting them to the negotiating table.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I actually really liked that. Just seeing that, like I say, the gradual softening, him being thrown into situations he hasn't been in for 50 years and being forced to hold a gun, and the eventual. The only thing I will say is I was kind of not disappointed by the fact that Tara was revealed to be the person who had shot them down and all that. It was sort of expected, but it was a little bit like, oh, so it was her after all. It was just a bit...
it's a bit obvious, isn't it?
There isn't much mystery. It's that whole thing of going, oh, there's only 5 characters in this episode. I wonder who could be the killer.
Yeah.
It's...
I was sort of hoping that it would have been the Vulcans using Andorian weapons.
I was kind of leaning that way at one point. I was like, oh, the Vulcans actually, they're using some sort of like their twisted logic to, try and stop these negotiations, because they think it won't work, so it's better just to get rid and show Archer to fail or something. I thought it was going to be some sort of twisted logic there, but
I think it's good that it's the Andorians, because, like, while we've been talking about it, as from what we've discussed, we're very much on the side of the Andorians, in that the Vulcans are at fault. But effectively, they're both at fault. Like, both of them, and and so I think if you'd had it as the Vulcans doing that, it would weigh it way too heavily, and it would make the situation a lot less grey. If you were like, Vulcans are dickheads, the Andorians should have the planet, And the whole point is basically going. It demonstrates everything. It demonstrates the idea of getting to the negotiation table isn't the easy bit. And the idea of just like Tara just straight up being like, I don't want discussion. I actually just want a war, because I think that we can win a war, whereas I don't think we can win with discussion, because they'll just hold us up for decades.
And you're absolutely right.
It's kind of valid. It's honestly, Tara's standpoint is actually kind of, I can understand this from what they've been through, but it shouldn't be the way. It shouldn't be.
It's a battle. Absolutely right. Yeah, it's a battle, but it's a battle to get to the table to avoid a battle.
Yep.
It's to avoid the bloodshed, and it's great because, let's be honest, like that huge where the two fleets are gonna meet, nothing happens, and it's just like you don't go, oh, you go. Because it's just like...
That's Trek, isn't it?
Yeah, that is Trek.
We could have had a space battle. Oh, but we got diplomacy instead.
Yeah. But it's so, like, Trip was so Picard in that moment where he's just like, well, if you're going to fire at each other, you might as well take us out with it, and then you're going to have Starfleet to deal with if you start to do that, and everyone's going to be a little bit pissed off.
Trip is so good, where it's basically
brilliant.
Where he says to the Vulcan, oh, if you shoot on them, we're going to shoot on you. And then the Andorians are like, oh, thank you for seeing our side. And he's like, no.
I'm going to shoot
I'm not on your side. It's like the whole point is that I'm in the middle.
I love the fact that the little side, Reed, where he's just like, phasers are locked, and then he just looks at it, he's just like, I'm gonna blow you both up. And it's just that look that he makes. Is like,
Yeah.
because you know that thumb is just like.
Like Dominic just wants to blow things up.
He's
I think is the whole
Shax.
thing.
He's
Like-
Shax of Enterprise, where he's just like, eject the warp core. He's just like,
But well, one of the things that I had as a mild criticism is that surely Reed should have been way more involved in this episode. Like, you know, I know T'Pol goes down to the planet because they need a Vulcan that they can trust with them for the purposes of the negotiations. But every single time when there's been the possibility of security or someone not being safe or something, Reed is always the one being like, I have to be there, I have to check everything.
Yeah.
And it's weird in this episode where he's like, nah, I'm not really in this one.
I-
You know,
He
played
just had a
it
bad
off.
belly that day.
yeah. I
I
played
think they
it
were
off,
like, we
though.
can't write him in. We can't figure out how to have a third,
Oh, he's
fourth person there.
I played it off though as Archer was going for diplomacy over a show of force and defense, where he's just
Yeah.
like and again it's very Picard
Yeah,
where he'll go, I
Reed
will,
would shoot first.
yeah, he's like, I will go down unarmed, I will go
Yeah.
down with a Vulcan, I will
Mm.
go down and show that I am serious about peace negotiations. Whereas Reed, as a security officer, would be like, we have to secure the perimeter. We have to have
Yeah.
an armed team to cover the
we
flank.
have to raise
and,
shields and fire
Yeah.
everything immediately.
and he's
So it's
like,
almost like a show of faith by not having him there.
a show
Yeah.
of faith of the heart. Yes, I would very much.
This show
We-
is faith of the heart.
We did, as I mentioned earlier in the episode many days ago, we did do a poll on this episode, Ceasefire, from season 2 of Star Trek Enterprise.
Dun-dun-dun.
Who had the best claim to the planet in Enterprise's episode Ceasefire? The options were the Vulcans, the Andorians, neither of them, or both of them. Now, in a little twist, I'm going to get Science Officer Synoiz to read out the Discord results first.
This is quite good because we've had to ignore it because Nerdbot on the Nerdy Up North Discord just seems to vote for every option every time we put a poll up. And we thought that it was just being a funny bugger, but it seems to be built in.
Clearly
But
a Vulcan.
yeah, he's just like indecisive bot. I've had one of them before.
Way.
Out of it, who has the best claim to the planet in Ceasefire? The Vulcans, the Andorians, neither of them or both of them. Neither of them wins with about 60% of the vote. So, yeah,
This is
neither
really
of them.
interesting. So we had a deluge of votes on the Nerdy Up North Twitter page.
A deluga.
All 6 of the people voted. We
6 is a magic number.
A deluge of 6 people.
Coming out
We did
strong,
put it
though.
up really late though today. Usually we put them like a day ahead, but I didn't
know. It's
get my
fine.
ass into gear.
You've been working. I've been rebuilding an entire house with my bare hands. Incidentally, the sex dungeon is complete.
Wait.
With 66.7% of the vote, neither of them had a rightful claim to the Class
Interesting.
D planet. Second, the Andorians had a legitimate claim to the planet. No one voted for the Vulcans.
Yeah.
Because they were just like, no, they're a bit dick. So
Technically, it's the same on the Discord poll, where it's
Yeah.
basically the majority of votes is for neither of them, but the only other votes that weren't Nerdbot was the Andorians.
It was the same
And-
people voting.
Yeah, I think so.
spoil the magic.
But I don't know because I think it's different people we have on Twitter than
Yeah.
Discord.
It
But
is,
it's still
yeah.
the idea of like, it is very much this case though. But I think neither of them. I think what we're seeing in the world at the minute is like no-win scenarios. Like we have the whole like Israel and Palestine thing where it's like going, there is no side. You can't be on a side because effectively you have to end up being like, I guess neither of them or both of them need to have it, and both of them isn't working. So,
A
and it becomes this
compromise.
thing where you have a
Yeah.
discussion of going, the only way to do it is compromise. But they've been trying that for like 70 years now. And
70
that's the
years.
whole thing. And therefore you kind of end up walking away being like, I guess maybe neither of them. Like,
Yeah.
and just be like, let's just, I don't know, move the French in there.
Our
Just
lovely.
Put the French in there and then they can both holiday there.
Give
occasionally.
the planet to
No,
Armus.
Not the shit Canadians. So
No, well, then we can take France back.
why?
Vineyards, damn it!
No, it's got Euro Disney. But I suppose we could pave
I
over.
love this idea. We've just
We can
suggested
pave over
removing all
Euro
the
Disney.
French from France, moving them somewhere else, and just claiming
Right.
France.
I propose we just demolish Euro Disney and we just put a big ass B&M. I would be happy with that. Put the garden centre where it's a small world.
Hey, I like Euro Disney. I
Why?
do like Euro Disney because it's a nice place in France. But
Okay, moving on. Kelly did comment though on the poll. Our lovely friend Kelly, Colour with Wonder on Twitch, who's also a lovely moderator on the Shuttle Pod Show.
Fancy Kelly.
YouTube and Discord. I mean, this is what she said, quote, I mean, Shan did break the treaty, but on the flip side, did the Vulcans have proof of purchase? I mean, ownership? Like, who just rocks up to a planet and is like, I'm having that? Ta! Really good point, though. It is a really good point. So they just rocked up and just went, yeah, it's ours now. Like,
But that is the thing, I guess, with Star Trek, is how are planets claimed?
Yeah. I think what we see in other like series is basically it is just first come first served. If there's no one there, then the Federation's like, cool, it's ours now, I guess.
Buy them from like
start something here, and that's what the Andorians do. So but this is the whole point. Where it's the whole point of sometimes the past doesn't matter. You just look at the current situation and go, hey, because I'd say the Andorians are the only ones with a right to it because the Vulcans didn't claim it when they had the chance.
Yeah.
And then they just came in afterwards and went, hey, this thing that you've spent time with, it's mine now. But the whole problem is that it's so messy and so much has happened that you can't just separate them out and be like, okay, Vulcans, go away. It's why diplomacy is so important and why compromise is so important.
This is why Euro Disney needs to be demolished. Okay. Oh, hang on a minute, guys. Hang on a minute.
Oh.
I'm getting an incoming transmission.
Incoming transmission.
Oh, what's happening?
I hope it's
Here's
not
where
me
I
mum.
haven't unfixed the poll.
I really hope it's not me
But-
mum. It's the Dabo Wheel of Episodes! Dabo Wheel! For those new to Trekking Up North, I'm sorry, but if you've never seen us before...
You've done well to survive this long.
Congratulations. Have what's left of my martini. The Dabo Wheel of Episodes has every episode of Star Trek in existence programmed into it. Every episode of Star Trek in existence thus
Except for
far.
that one from DS9 where they play that stupid game.
Oh, it's in there.
Oh, it's in
Oh,
in
no.
there. I think currently the original series is still removed. It's in a timeout at the minute because we've overdone it a bit lately. The movies have been removed, and Discovery miraculously didn't show up at the gate on time, I'm afraid. But maybe it'll go in eventually.
It will go in the future. So, what we do, we spin the Dabo Wheel. All the episodes are displayed as the Dabo Wheel spins round with vicious ferocity. And then when it lands on an episode, we all have to yell, Dabo! And then either laugh, cry, or just sigh with anxiety.
Well, I won't be here next week, so I'm happy.
You have to
James.
watch us talking about whatever crap it is.
James.
Come on.
Yep.
Young
Code of honour.
James. Young James. My fellow smogite. Or whatever they call us down here. Deranged, touched people. What do Geordies call people from Middlesbrough? Damaged people. What are you hoping for us to review next week?
I want you to get a good one. Is there any series you haven't done yet? Or have you managed to cover all series at the moment?
But we could do
series.
we could do with a lot more Enterprise, a lot more DS9, I think.
Okay, I hope you get a decent DS9 one.
Ooh. He's a union man. Synoiz.
Maybe a Torture O'Brien episode or something like that.
Wow.
What, you mean one with Keiko in?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I want to
Synoiz.
say one of the obvious good ones.
So all
There's
of it.
good- There's so many of them,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you hoping for, Synoiz?
Do you need to ask that question?
If you say Sub Rosa, I'm gonna. Right.
Actually,
Code of
do you
Honor
know
or
what?
Sub Rosa? One of them.
I tainted my Google history this week, and I should have done incognito mode, but I'm a dumbass. I was going to get Synoiz a present,
Oh God.
but it's not available for very good reason. I was going to get Synoiz Beverly Crusher's candle holder from Sub Rosa.
Yes.
However,
Did you just Google candle slag?
no, because then my safe search was not disabled and I saw a lot of things that have forever changed me. What I was going to do, all I got was the 3D files. So if anyone has a free 3D printer and wants to print the candle holder from TNG Season 7 episode Sub Rosa, please do that and I will pay actual Earth money for it. Because I just want to see... firstly, I want to see him hold it, but I want him in a Beverly Crusher wig.
The big curly ginger
Beverly
one.
Snatch.
Oh, we could do it actually. Oh my God, I think Teresa's got a good one. Bonnie might have a great one. We could do it. It's probably for 3D printing people. It'd probably be someone with an FDM printer because I've got a resin printer, but it's more for fine detail, and I think this might be too big for it. I haven't said that much.
Mark's just said, I've just sent a 3D printer that was sent to us by accident to your son. Get your son to print the candle. 3D
printer.
Get your son to print the candle. Don't give him any context, right? Don't say anything, right? Just say, would you mind awfully just printing this candle holder? Father, this looks suspiciously like the one from Sub Rosa. Do not question my authority.
Why is it called candleslag.stl? Yeah. Episode wise, now James has got me thinking. I would like a good O'Brien one. I think maybe we could do the one where O'Brien has to deal. It's really close to bar association, isn't it? I think it's season 3. The one where he has it implanted in his head that he's been in prison. And he has a whole episode of being freaked out. It is such a good O'Brien episode. But yeah, anything with O'Brien in for DS9 would be great. Otherwise, more Enterprise. I'd love to be made to watch season 3 and 4, just so that maybe I change my mind about them. But at the heart of it, in my cold, dark heart, it's Sub Rosa or Codavon.
Do you know what I want to see? Do you want to know?
No one's asked. Is it gonna be like no?
No, we're not fixing the wheel. I want to see the episode of DS9 where Odo takes love tips from Vic Fontaine.
Yes. For
Kira. I love that episode so much. I really, really do. And I will, if that lands on that, I will be happy, but I will need to get a grey uniform because I don't have a grey uniform yet.
Oh no.
That would be a great one. Yeah.
I literally bought this. Like, this is from America. I paid for express shipping to get this because I was like, I don't have an Enterprise jumpsuit. Wrath of Khan bomber on its way. I know, I'm committed to the bit. Don't sigh at me. Are we ready, everybody?
Go for it.
Remember, when it lands...
Are we all ready in the chat?
When it lands, everybody, you have to yell it and you have to type Dabo. Okay, I'm loading up the wheel. Oh, I hate this. This gives me so much anxiety.
You're gonna get Skin of Evil from TNG Series 1.
You shut your handsome mouth.
That's the first episode I ever remember watching.
You see, he's saying this. He's saying this, everybody, because he's in Scotland, so he's very far away from me, so I can't catch him. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh God!
Oh, here we go.
Dabo! Yes! It finally happened.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
No.
We better get that candle 3D printed then.
Oh no.
It's finally here, Goodwill. You thought you could escape it, but 52 weeks. Also, is next week our 1-year anniversary as well?
Okay. All right. I am smelling conspiracy here. Because
No,
next week...
that's in series 1.
Next
Oh,
week...
yeah,
Shut your face. Next week, it will be 1 year exactly that Trekking Up North started. It is our first birthday.
Oh, my word.
It is our first birthday. I think that Science Officer Synoiz has pulled a few isolinear chips out of the computer.
Oh, I genuinely haven't. This is
You are lying.
Natural. Okay, well, what we'll do, the episode is Sub Rosa. We can't change this. My hands are here. I've not touched anything. Spin it again. You will not get Sub Rosa.
No. The rules are whatever it lands on.
It is. I love this.
You don't want to spin it again. You might get something worse.
Oh, God, imagine if we got Goodwill now. We just go, oh, God.
Oh,
I did see it flash by.
Did it actually appear in the list there?
It did appear in the list.
But I'm kind of annoyed that once we do this one, we can't joke about it anymore because it's off the
You know what?
books.
Right. Mark is sat in the chat and he is so smug. He is so smug. Mark,
Oh, God.
get your ass on next week and talk about
Yes,
Sub
go
Rosa
on, Mark.
to us. Get
Mark,
your ass
you're
on
doing
here
Sub Rosa with us.
and talk
Get your
about
Beverly
this
wig on. Get your ginger Beverly wig on. Join us next week.
I had forgotten which episode Code of Honor was, and I just looked it up, and oh, yeah, it's that one.
Yeah, it is. It's
Oh,
the one where we're
God.
like going, how do 3 white people talk about this episode?
Well,
And
It
again, why are they Scottish? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Very
like
much
the
like up
space
the-
Irish. and
Up
you're
the
like,
long ladder.
what?
Up the long ladder. Why are they Irish? Yes. Okay. Right.
Oh my God,
no,
I'm so glad we
it-
got some roast.
What a world.
yes, get your whiskey. Get your goddamn whiskey.
There
Go
we
to the
We have
Bruise
to-
Brothers.
Okay.
Go
we
to
need
Bruise
whiskey.
Brothers and just say, I need your top shelf. And when they say why, just say Sub Rosa and just watch them collect everything from the top shelf.
Okay. What we need, okay, everyone who's on Twitter, we need to get hashtag candle slag
Oh God, we really
trending
do.
on Twitter. That needs to be the thing in the Trekverse. We need to get hashtag candle slag.
God.
I'm
Purely
smelling
for this.
conspiracy. I am really smelling conspiracy here. You know,
I
'cause
love it.
he gave me Star Trek Enterprise this week because he knew. Game on, count me in.
I will swear on Lee's 14-inch penis, just so I can touch it, that I have not fixed any of this today.
Computer.
That is why I'm so amused by the
com-
fact that this has happened.
computer, take this shit from my screen. Thank you. Actually,
Oh.
to be fair, candle slag, yes, Mark.
Yes, candle slag. Oh, it's funny. I love that this is
Tell
a
you what,
year
right?
of this.
What I'm worried
movie.
about is Gates McFadden, who is possibly the nicest person on the planet, is going to be like, why am I in a tweet with hashtag candle slag?
Obviously, I'm not on next week, but in solidarity, I will watch the episode as well over the
Yes,
course of next
that's
week.
it.
In solidarity with you two, because you were so lovely to invite me on here and give me a good episode to look at. I will, in solidarity, watch it.
Next week, everybody who's listening, everybody who's watching, like I said, next week is the first anniversary of Trekking Up North. I am so excited. To be honest, as much as I'm crying and dying inside deep down, I am really looking forward to reviewing Sub Rosa, because come hell or high water, no matter what, I will find a positive slant on that episode. If I could make the motion picture, if I could put a positive slant on the motion picture, I will make this positive.
Beverly Crusher's hair. There you go.
Beverly Crusher's hair.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be lovely. It's got the intro theme, A Next Generation.
Is
That's
anyone?
good.
Is there literally anyone near where I live with a 3D printer? Because I'm going to get a can of spray and I'm going to rustify it and I'm going to
Send me the files. I will have a go at printing it on my printer. We'll
Pull the
see.
uniform down.
Oh, God,
See
do I
what
have
we
a
can do with it.
Do I have a stand for the Enterprise? My stand for the Enterprise D hasn't arrived yet. Oh, God damn it. This is all going Pete Tong. At least I've got a uniform to wear.
Okay. Everyone
Wow.
in the chat, you know what to do. You need to watch the Next Generation episode of Sub Rosa. It's final series, isn't it? It's one of the
7,
last
yeah, I
ones.
just looked it up. Yeah, series 7.
Yeah.
Gates McFadden was when
it's-
Gates McFadden got this script, she looked at it, she was just like, "This is a season 7 episode."
I think she must have been like, so you know that the show's ending and you're just trying to put these random ideas that you've had for a while and just trying to do them, are you? Right, cool, okay, fine. You know,
Just
it is such an obscure, silly episode.
I won't say
But
anything else.
It's so dumb that it's hilarious.
I
like,
will
as
say-
in it's yeah.
I won't say anything else apart from this. This episode I did not watch until I was a teenager again because it scarred me for life when I was young. See, that's not a joke. It's not even a joke. It scarred
You haven't been
me.
able to light a candle since then, have you? No, leave it dark, mother. The strange candle man's gonna come otherwise. Also, are you appreciating the perfect imitation of your voice?
I'm so tired of this.
I'm just so tired.
Why?
Oh.
Okay.
I think there is a twinge. It's hitting me now, though. The idea of going, oh, we're gonna have to take Sub Rosa off the wheel now. So it's this idea of going, oh,
Hey,
I
you
can't
take
even
that
joke
one
about
off.
it anymore.
Code of Honor's still there.
Oh,
It
James,
is
don't.
Code of
No,
Honor.
James, no,
Have you
no,
done
no.
that weird episode where Wesley Crusher gets tried for like nearly putting a death penalty or
Oh,
something?
for trampling and all.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
not
that
yet.
one's awful as well.
just for the budgie smugglers that we see on screen as well. That's so bad.
There was something weird about Star Trek and its idea of future fashion.
It was 87. Everyone was weird. Look, I was conceived. So
I was born in 87, to be
I
fair.
was born in 87. To be fair, yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to recruit Isaac. You want Isaac on as well? Why do you want to torture poor Isaac? Poor little man.
Well, I'm trying to work out where I'm gonna get like a ginger wig from.
Oh God.
I'll find one.
Right, guys.
I think we should probably end this episode
On
here.
that note,
Guys,
Thank you everyone who has tuned in. Please watch Sub Rosa and join us next week for our 1-year anniversary of doing Trekking Up North, which is crazy.
This has been our review of Ceasefire from season 2 of Star Trek Enterprise. I am so happy I got to discuss Enterprise with these two lovely gentlemen, pour my heart out, sing, and just generally have a wonderful time, as I do every week on Trekking Up North. If you like this and you are not a subscriber, Goodwill needs another martini. Out! If you are not a subscriber to the Nerdy Up North YouTube channel, what are you doing? Click that subscribe button, hit that like button on the video, and caress the bell like it's a candle holder. Caress it so you see all the notifications for all the series that we have got, because we have got a lot of series now. We've got Trekking Up North, Monsters Up North, Gaming Up North, the Ramble Cast, Gigs Up North. We've got this weird thing that happens on a Sunday that I'm not really familiar
Don't know what
with.
that
I
is.
don't know what it is. We've also got Twitch streams. I will be back. Well, no, nearly.
oh, a mystery.
I will not be back on Twitch on Tuesday.
Oh.
Truck will
Oh.
be returning on Tuesday for another installment of American Truck Simulator, driving the big pink rig that is Lee's dick.
I got to meet this Lee one day.
That's it.
You'll see
won't
him
be
before you
disappointed.
hear him. That's what I'm saying.
Hey.
So that'll be me on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. GMT, and I will be raiding this guy right here at the end of the stream because he does the Twitch. What are you doing this Tuesday, or do you not know yet?
So this Tuesday we've been playing 007 Everything or Nothing on stream for the GameCube. We've been slowly working our way through that. And then after we are completing that, we are going to be moving on to the Tomb Raider Remastered series, as that is out next week. I'm very excited about that. Tomb Raider is a series very close to my heart. Tomb Raider 2 is one of my all-time favorites.
Everything James does is in the descriptions below. So please go down the list and like and subscribe everything that you see, because we've got the friends from the Shuttle Pod show who... they are just as unhinged as we are, and we have got Unplanned Trek who are just as unhinged as we are, but they are Australian.
And on a Trek front, I will be covering some Trek games this year on my channel, including Star Trek Invasion on the PS1 and Crossroads of Time on the Mega Drive.
Oh, no one cares about that one. Star Trek Invasion!
I'm looking forward to trying it, so do look out for them. I am also planning on doing a video on one of the apparently worst Star Trek games ever made, Shattered Universe.
Oh, no. Synoiz, what are you up to?
I will be Twitch streaming after this very show.
Oh God, why?
10 p.m. of your English times. I will be on Twitch streaming. We're going to be playing more Persona 5.
Nice.
I was trying to organize something more. I was trying to do something different, but I want something casual. So yeah, there we go.
So you picked Persona 5?
Grinder profile.
He wants a game with benefits, and he just picked up Persona 5 that wants a house, 3 kids, a dog, and a picket fence.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, what is your definition of casual?
This is the problem, where it's basically like I was musing today of I really want to play Chrono Cross again. That's one of my favorite RPGs. And I kind of want to start it, but I keep forgetting how long it is. And it's a game with a lot of dialogue, and I don't really want to be reading out tons of dialogue.
None of us play Total War Age of Britannia, because we are not Greg Wallace.
Yeah, otherwise, we've got a girl podcast that just came out the other day, GURL. It's our LGBT plus podcast where we have lots of lovely drag queen and LGBT friendly guests. And that's it. And then we've got Drag Idol coming up next Sunday in Newcastle, which should be exciting.
I'm doing nothing else but twitching. I am planning Los Angeles for the Shuttle Pod live show in April, and then I am planning Star Trek Las Vegas with this handsome Geesian who's at the other side of the screen. So I'm getting all that planned. I am chasing press passes, but it's damn near impossible. So big things.
I do hope they give us press passes. Oh, that'd be lovely.
Well, if not, I'm sneaking in someone's suitcase, so it's fine. So, without any further ado, I think it's time we close this and head back to the Adequate so I can just cry in my bed. What do you think? Live show, April, Los Angeles. Yes, Mark, I know, because I'm going there. I need to get a hotel booked, actually. Shit, I'm actually flying over and I've got nowhere to stay except a car. Yes, so that has been our review of Star Trek Enterprise Season 2, Episode 15, Ceasefire. We have been trekking up north. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, trekkers and trekkers, stay safe out there, look after each other, live long and prosper, and as always, free miles.
Hashtag candle slag.